Secrets of ancient Egypt, which for thousands of years lay submerged beneath the Mediterranean. The treasures belong to two sunken cities which were thought to be the stuff of myth.
Beneath the calm waves off Egypt's coast lies a sunken city so massive, divers say they've only scratched 5% of it in 2 decades. We're talking collapsed temples, gold-covered rituals sealed in clay, and warships frozen mid-escape. But what's happening right now might be even scarier because modern Alexandria is sinking faster than sea levels are rising. And if you want to see what they uncover next, hit subscribe, because the next discovery could be buried somewhere no one has looked before. Stick around. You won't believe what archaeologists just pulled from the mud. The drone dives toward a sunken gateway. Just beneath the waves of Abu Qir Bay, off the coast of Alexandria, a remotely operated vehicle, an underwater drone, slips beneath the surface, heading toward a city lost to time. Not a shipwreck, not scattered ruins, but a full port city that once ruled the edge of the Nile, Thonis Heracleion. It's sitting about 6.5 kilometers from the shoreline in waters barely 10 meters deep. Shallow, but still deep enough to hide a civilization for over 1,000 years. Before Alexandria ever made the map, Thonis was it, the checkpoint, the maritime filter through which all foreign vessels passed before entering Egypt's sacred waters. And now machines are closing in. Historians called it the Nile's Sea Gate. Traders called it the start of their Egyptian journey. The ruins stretch across a vast area, roughly 11 by 15 kilometers. Low islands, man-made canals, giant temple zones, all woven together in a layout that looked like a floating city. And there's more. Herodotus once spoke of this place as the stage where Helen and Paris passed through after fleeing Troy. Strabo marked its position precisely where modern sonar found it. Some nicknamed it Egypt's Atlantis. Maybe that's dramatic, but here's what's 100% factual. After more than 20 years of diving, only about 5% of it has been explored until now. How they navigate the murk. The water here doesn't play nice. Visibility drops fast, sometimes to the length of a human arm. But the explorers behind this mission don't rely on eyesight. They've built a system that doesn't just see through the murk. It thinks through it. They start from the surface. Survey vessels sweep the area with side-scan sonar, bouncing sound waves off the seafloor to reveal outlines, columns, walls, fallen temples etched like ghost images into mud. GPS snorts. Technology locks every reading to centimeter-level precision. Then come the magnetometers, tuned not just to metal, but to disturbances in the Earth's field itself. These instruments pick up buried stonework like a metal detector tuned to time. But the real game-changer, a tool called the parametric sub-bottom profiler. It sends out paired high frequencies that generate a low-frequency signal. That signal punches through layers of sediment and returns vertical cross-sections of the ground, like slicing through a mud cake to find treasure in the middle. Why does that matter? Because parts of Thonis are buried under meters of hard clay, and not metaphorical hard, real compacted, flood-packed clay that sealed temples and artifacts like a time-locked vault. The profiler tells archaeologists exactly where to dig and where not to. The drone joins in next. Equipped with video, instruments, and precise probes, it scouts tight pockets beneath collapsed stone and tests sediment layers before any diver suits up. It's reconnaissance with surgical intent. When the digging begins, divers work inside a geo-referenced grid, snapping thousands of overlapping photos to build 3D maps in near-zero visibility. Even the dredging is delicate. Tiny vacuums filter the clay so nothing gets lost, from a gold ring to a fishbone. Bottom line, They don't beat the darkness. They outsmart it. First target, the Ammon Temple's collapse zone. Hidden beneath layers of clay and centuries of silence lies a scene frozen in the middle of disaster. The drone's first mission isn't simply to explore, it's to descend into the exact zone where a sacred structure once came crashing down. The Ammon Temple, a place where pharaohs were crowned as universal rulers in ancient Egypt. That made it the beating heart of legitimacy and divine power. But this heart didn't simply stop. It collapsed. Archaeologists describe the scene like a layer cake. At the bottom, 5th century BCE timber posts from substructures. In the middle, a violent mid-6th century BCE event that sent massive stone blocks crashing down, and on top, about 3 meters of hard clay that sealed the chaos in place like a lid over a sarcophagus. Inside that sealed pocket, they discovered silver ritual instruments, gold jewelry, and alabaster perfume vessels. The kind of fragile pieces that could have been crushed or scattered, but weren't, which raises a chilling possibility. Was a ceremony being prepared when the collapse struck? And then there's the Jed pillar, crafted from lapis lazuli, a symbol of stability found inside a space created by catastrophic instability. That poetic contradiction says it all. Thanks to the technology, the team could pinpoint these fragile caches without disturbing the wrong layers. The geophysical survey read the clay like an MRI, and the ROV confirmed where to focus. What they uncovered was a temple's final gasp, frozen in time and strangely intact. And deeper still, beneath the debris, wooden beams from an earlier phase of construction, meaning the collapse zone didn't just preserve the end of a story, it preserved its beginnings too. A warship pinned in place. Just a few meters from the shattered sanctuary, something long and straight appeared beneath 5 meters of clay. At first, it was simply an anomaly on a scan, but the moment researchers fed that data into the sub-bottom profiler, the outline sharpened and the shape began telling its own story. A military vessel still moored along the edge of the Ammon Temple's canal when the collapse came crashing down. Massive blocks fell from above, acting like stone shackles and pinning the hull to the bottom. For more than 2,000 years, it never moved. The ship itself is a hybrid marvel. About 25 meters long, flat-bottomed for the Nile's shallow waters, yet fitted with a central keel for speed and strength. It was built for the delta, but fast enough for patrol duty. Mortise and tenon joints, reused timbers, and a Greek-Egyptian design reveal incredible versatility. It's the kind of ship you'd expect to see circling a tense multicultural port city like Thonis Heracleion. Researchers say it likely dates to the 2nd century BCE, a time when tensions ran high under Ptolemaic rule, which raises the question, was it simply in the wrong place at the wrong time? Or was it stationed there for something bigger? Some suggest it was part of a ceremonial escort. Others see it as a routine security detail caught in a freak collapse. Proof of a multicultural port. Move east of the temple ruins, and another layer of the city begins to emerge. One that's less about destruction and more about convergence. Buried in the sediment, the team uncovered something unexpected. A sanctuary dedicated to Aphrodite. Not a roadside altar, but a full-scale Greek religious site hidden inside the Egyptian city's sacred core. The offerings left behind tell the story. Fine ceramics, bronze figurines, and imported goods that never came from the Nile Delta. And scattered nearby, a cache of Greek weapons, blades, and armor pieces of the kind carried by hoplites. It matches the historical record. During the Sate dynasty, around the 6th to 5th century BCE, Greeks were officially permitted to settle and trade in Thonis, but with privilege came responsibility. Someone had to protect the canopic mouth And it appears they did exactly that, armed, garrisoned, and active. The team also recovered a delicate bronze pourer shaped like a duck, likely used for libations. Nearby, a votive hand believed to have come from Cyprus, small, specific, and revealing. These weren't merely beautiful trinkets. They were breadcrumbs, clues tracing a network that stretched from the eastern Mediterranean into this drowned port's everyday life. And the numbers speak even louder. Archaeologists didn't just find one or two swords. They described the weapons as numerous. That kind of blunt detail suggests this sanctuary also served as a social space for foreign soldiers, perhaps even somewhere to pray before patrol. Monumental scale in the deep. Towering above what was once the ceremonial entrance to the port stood three giants, a pharaoh, a queen, and the god Hapi, each carved from granite, each designed to intimidate, impress, and inspire. Today, they lie shattered. But when divers lifted those fragments from the bay and reassembled them, Hapi alone stood 5.4 meters tall, still the largest statue of a deity ever discovered in Egypt. At his sides, the pharaoh measured just over 5 meters, and the queen stood close behind at 4.9, a granite gateway to the kingdom lost beneath mud, now brought back to the surface. And it wasn't only about size. These statues tell stories. Traces of ancient repairs on Hapi's right side show temple workers attempted to preserve the god before something, possibly an earthquake, brought him down. The pharaoh figure holds an enigmatic cylinder in his right hand, a visual cue of royal authority carved for foreigners to see the instant they cleared open water. Recovering them was a feat of choreography. Divers secured them with webbing underwater, lifting them piece by piece while keeping the granite from twisting. The entire process was captured in expedition footage and later exhibition catalogs. At one point, Hapi even flew in an Airbus Beluga for a European tour, a surreal twist for a 3rd century BCE giant. Now, the trio greets visitors inside the Grand Egyptian Museum, a ship graveyard like no other. Move across the bay, and what begins as scattered timbers quickly becomes something enormous. Not one wreck, not 10, but over 125 ancient vessels with more than 700 anchors mapped and recorded. The kind of numbers that don't merely suggest traffic, they confirm a logistical heartbeat at Egypt's edge. Early reports said 70. That alone was historic, but newer expedition data blew the estimate wide open. Boats packed into channels, hulls layered like pages in a history book. Some even pinned down with wooden stakes, repurposed as makeshift piers or land extensions. Not every ship here sank accidentally. Some were deliberately parked and transformed into infrastructure, ancient civil engineering in its rawest form. And then there's Ship 17, the Beryl. For decades, scholars questioned Herodotus's claims about a strange ship built from short acacia planks and stitched together like bricks. But there it was, exactly as he had described it. Every tenon in place, every detail confirmed. A moment when ancient writing and underwater timber aligned like a perfect match. Not every vessel was connected to trade either. One particular skiff, carved from sycamore, a wood sacred to Osiris, was discovered carefully scuttled in the Grand Canal. Around it, ladles and votive dishes lay scattered like ceremonial remains. Not a wreck, but a ritual, a symbolic burial that transformed the harbor into a shrine. Why it sank? Heracleion didn't disappear because of war or gradual decline. It vanished because the ground beneath it betrayed everything built above. The city rested on delta clay, soft, waterlogged, and dangerously unstable. For a long time the process remained subtle, slow subsidence, rising seas, and the occasional tremor were manageable. But eventually, the clay reached its breaking point. Geoarchaeology reveals the chain reaction. A powerful shock, perhaps an earthquake, triggers what's known as liquefaction. The saturated clay loses its strength. Water trapped inside is forced out, and suddenly solid ground becomes fluid. Monuments tilt, temples fracture, and entire neighborhoods slide into the water without warning. At the Ammon precinct, archaeologists found blocks that had literally slid into a canal, traced layer by layer through the stratigraphy. Artifacts remained locked in pristine condition, sealed beneath a hard layer of compacted clay. That's not erosion, that's a vertical drop. Broader evidence points to multiple disasters. The team cites several earthquakes followed by tidal waves, each one adding to the damage. In the end, a section of the delta, roughly 110 square kilometers wide, sank beneath the sea, taking Thonis Heracleion and nearby Canopus with it. And here's the modern twist. This isn't only an ancient problem. In the Nile Delta, the land often sinks faster than global sea levels rise. So even without an ocean surge, cities can drown. Much of the relative sea level rise here comes from the land collapsing beneath itself. Add seismic instability, heavy monuments, and wave pressure, and the outcome becomes inevitable. Parallel story next door. While the drone scans Abu Qir Bay, another discovery begins unfolding just a few miles along the coast inside Alexandria's eastern harbor. Known in antiquity as Portus Magnus, this was the center of the royal quarter. And since 1992, archaeologists from the same mission have been mapping what lies beneath its waves. The scale is royal, a sunken island called Antierhodos, a peninsula once crowned with temples to Poseidon, granite quays, stone platforms where Cleopatra, Caesar, and Antony once walked. All of it sank beneath the surface, leaving fragments of power scattered across the seabed. But this isn't merely rubble. The team discovered a full-sized priest statue holding an Osiris canopic jar, 2 sphinxes, and a granite head of Caesarion, Cleopatra's son, likely from a statue that once stood 5 meters tall. Each discovery helps redraw the city's sacred topography, down to ceremonial avenues and palace terraces. The techniques mirror Heracleion. Divers used magnetometers, sonar grids, and even silicone molds to read inscriptions directly from submerged stones. No lifting needed. One nearby Roman shipwreck stretched across 350 meters, pinned in place with no cargo. Possibly a harbor craft, possibly simply in the wrong place on the wrong day. And then something rare. The expedition now believes it has enough architectural remains to reconstruct Cleopatra's sanctuary to Isis in 3 dimensions, not merely as theory, but as a space once walked, prayed in, and defended. The myth says Cleopatra's tomb lies underwater. No one has found it. But what they have proven is just as profound, that parts of royal Alexandria truly did fall into the sea. That her world, her religion, her rule, it's all still down there. The terrifying modern echo. Here's where the past doesn't simply echo, it crashes back. Right now in modern Alexandria, buildings are collapsing. Not just a few. Authorities report around 40 collapses every year. That number used to be 1 every decade. Now it's a weekly headline. The culprit: saltwater intrusion, pushing upward through the ground, eating away at foundations from below, while the sea erodes from above. Over the last 2 decades, the coastline has shrunk, retreating at a rate of 3.5 meters per year. Entire fishing districts are losing ground. 9 offshore concrete barriers are now being built. Beaches are being replenished with imported sand. but the cracks are appearing, literally. About 7,500 buildings have been marked for demolition. That's 2% of Alexandria's entire housing stock, and more are slipping every day. A 2025 study in Earth's Future names Alexandria as the most vulnerable urban strip in the Mediterranean. It connects collapse patterns to shoreline retreat, groundwater salinization, and sinking clay soils. The same exact recipe that once swallowed Heracleion. Widen the lens, and the danger spreads. A Nature Communications analysis shows 37 out of 49 coastal UNESCO heritage sites in the Mediterranean are already at risk from flooding. 42 are being eroded right now. By the end of the century, flood risk could rise by 50%. For Alexandrians, the past feels close, especially when modern apartment blocks creak in silence before giving way. Fishermen trust what they see more than what they're told. Offshore, artificial reef structures grow like concrete coral. Onshore, some still whisper that Cleopatra's tomb lies beneath the waves. What the ROV adds that divers can't. Here's where the mission shifts from human endurance to machine precision. Divers can only remain down for so long, and overhangs or silt-filled voids can become deadly within seconds. The ROV rewrites those limits. It scouts places people can't reach, staying underwater for hours, hovering steadily, even in surge, threading itself through gaps beneath collapsed stone. Every movement is recorded. Pilots on deck fly it using acoustic positioning, ultra-short, baseline GPS. So each second of video and every sample is tagged with exact coordinates. That means when the team reviews footage weeks later, they can return to the same square meter, even in near-zero visibility. And unlike the pop science image of an untethered drone, research ROVs always operate with an umbilical. That cable powers the system and streams data live back to the ship. Nothing is left to chance when an artifact appears in the frame. In Abu Qir Bay, that feed has already transformed sonar blobs into solid identifications. Fuzzy outlines on an acoustic map become walls, timbers, or temple blocks once the ROV pans across them. It doesn't stop there. The vehicle can project laser dots for measurement, sweep in pre-planned arcs for photogrammetry, and, when approved, lift fragile bowls or ornaments with a soft grip arm that sends resistance back to the pilot's hands. The precision extends beyond the ship. On well-equipped expeditions, the feed travels ashore through telepresence. Conservators, linguists, and epigraphers can call the shots in real time. Tilt the camera, zoom in on a detail, avoid that seam. The ROV hovers steady and patient while experts hundreds of miles away direct the work. Could the next discovery change history again? Drop your theories in the comments, and if you want more, hit subscribe.